I'm Nathan Gonzalez, editor of Inside Elections, and I'm here at the National PAC Conference in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Some council members have some burning questions about the upcoming elections.
A question that's on everybody's mind: what is the status of Trump's legal case, and will a verdict be reached before the election?
We can't lose sight of the fact that we're talking about a presidential candidate under legal indictment. Even though the legal issues helped Trump in the primary, that's not a guarantee it's going to help him in the general election. There's really an assumption that independent voters, I think, might be turned off by it. When we're talking about the calendar, right now there's only one date that is set, and that's March 25th with the hush money, the Stormy Daniels case. For the rest of them, things are on pause. And I think Trump benefits from a pause. The Supreme Court saying they'll take up the case, but maybe not decide the immunity until April or June. That, I think, is to Trump's benefit. It helps him just play the victim without people knowing the details. If he is on trial, I think people start to see some of the details of these cases, and that could be more problematic. Right now, I don't expect there to be a conviction. If there is a conviction, there's going to be an appeal. Trump's not going to be running from jail. But there's still a possibility that he's on trial, but that's just probably as far as it's going to get.
Well, thank you. That was very insightful. I appreciate that.
It's getting worse.
Kyrsten Sinema just announced that she wasn't seeking re-election this year. How does this affect the U.S. Senate race in Arizona?
Well, first, it makes the race less complicated. It went from one of the most complicated races to something more simple between a Democrat, likely Ruben Gallego, and Carrie Lake, the Republican. We had it as a toss-up before. I think it's still a toss-up for now because you have an open seat, no incumbent, a presidential swing state. Those are all of the ingredients for a competitive race. I think a lot is going to have to do with the presidential race. If President Biden is able to win Arizona again, that would help Gallego. But if Biden loses Arizona, I'm not sure how much Gallego can overperform in order to pull out the victory.
Thanks, Nathan. Shifting to the Senate race in Pennsylvania, given Senator Casey's history and name ID in the state, can you imagine a world where he's not reelected?
It's hard to imagine, but I think we have to be open-minded about it. The Caseys have a long legacy in Pennsylvania, but incumbency, legacy in politics doesn't mean what it used to mean. Sometimes that is now a liability. But Pennsylvania has Democratic leanings, but it's not so strong that Casey can take this race for granted. I think there could be pressure at the top of the ticket depending on how Biden performs, and he'll have to once again kind of earn that additional term.
Interesting. Thanks, Nathan.
Oh. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so my question is, what do you see happening in the Virginia governor's race next year?
That's going to be one of the first tests after a big set of 2024 elections. And depending on who's in the White House, there's usually a reaction against the party that's in the White House. I think maybe the most fascinating part right now will be the Democratic primary, where you have likely the Richmond Mayor, LeVar Stoney, and Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger. This is kind of a clash where you have an African-American male and a Democratic woman together in a Democratic primary, and those are two types of individuals that Democratic primary voters are looking to elevate increasingly. So I think it's going to be a big race.
Yeah, thanks.
It looks really far away. I mean, like the average.
Well, Doug, everyone wanted to ask me about upcoming elections, but I wanted to ask you what it was like to live through elections during the Civil War.
Well, actually, my first election, I think, was 1856. Is that? I hope that was an election. You weren't there?
I wasn't there.
And that was memorable. But the Civil War, I finally was able to vote.
There you go.
So,
it was a big one.
And I loved the Douglas and Lincoln debates. I traveled, saw several of them.
And how have elections changed from back then to today?
Well, Teddy Roosevelt was memorable. He and I were, I try to be bipartisan. And FDR too, and then of course, but I kind of, right down the middle. My first job was at McDonald's. Mac rings around the sandwiches. You have to be old to know this. There were these cardboard things that you would fold around the Mac rings. So can I ask you a question now? Would you rather wrestle a crocodile, a tiger, a lion, or a blue whale?
I'm a terrible swimmer, so the one with the whale would not last very long.
Yeah, I was going to say
So,
they're really big.
I would think I would want to get my sons involved because they're
so
much more ruthless.
you
I would
wanna-
sacrifice. No,
so
I
you're
wouldn't
gonna-
sacrifice.
you wanna-
I would
that's,
need their help.
That's
I would,
really sweet.
you don't have to be
pretends
fast.
to be such a nice person, and I ask him what would he want to wrestle, and he says, "I'd like to throw my sons to the crocodile. Maybe one to the
should have thought this
crocodile,
out
one to the
before.
lion."
You don't have to be faster than the animal, just faster
Just
than the
faster,
slowest person.
So, and how many kids you have?
Well, now I have 4, but that might be down to 3.
Well,
after this.
well, and I gave you 4 choices, so yeah, I guess that pretty much solved that problem. Okay,
Small house.
great answer, Nathan.
What a way to
Yeah.
go out.
So now you know
Live.
something about him. Thank you for tuning in, and you may never do this again, but we appreciate the attention.